Well, we're back with the CB500 exhaust stud extraction attempt. Fortunately, as you can see from the intro, which gives the game away a little, I have been successful. And this is where I left off. I tried a couple of different things and wasn't able to get the stud out. But I broke it off through my own stupidity, just over talking it. Slightly better than breaking it off whilst trying to undo it, because at least that tells you the stud's turning. And if it would have broken whilst trying to undo it, then you know it's all rusted up. And even if you're able to grab it, you're still going to have a hard time getting it out. So there you go. That's the place where the stud actually sheared right at the nut end. So I did have a lot of material to grab, and as I said, I broke it whilst doing it up, so at least I know it wasn't all corroded solid. And so firstly I tried the lock nut method, which was proving a little difficult. I just couldn't seem to get these two nuts to lock up together very well. I was probably scared, I think, of over torquing that a little bit and shearing the rest off. So then I just filed it down and tried to grab it with the mole wrench, but that just wasn't really having it. So I've come back to it a couple of days later with the lock nut method again, even though I've filed the flats onto the stud. And as you can see, I've used some red thread lock and penetrating fluid, and I've torqued them up an awful lot more, risking shearing the stud off. But of course it really is kill or cure, do or die. If I have to get the head off at this stage, I'm thinking I have to get the head off, but then I'll have a lot more room to be able to drill the remainder of the stud out. So I gave this a go, and coupled with the very well torqued up lock nut, the penetrating fluid, the red thread lock, I gave myself a far better chance. And as you can see from this, it backed out after a few turns. I really didn't have to put any effort into it at all. Just to start this off, I did give the spanner a tap with a hammer, which is quite effective, a little bit like a kind of an impact driver. And you can see it's just backing out without any kind of resistance whatsoever. The threads are a little dirty, I'm sure, but yeah, that came out nice and clean. As you can see from that, the threads are pretty good actually. There's no corrosion there, a little bit of dirt and muck, but nothing that's of any kind of a problem. This is the thread locker that I used, quite cheap, not particularly, it's not Loctite or anything like that, and I can't for the life of me remember where I got it, and I've had it knocking around for a long time, all sealed up. And it was incredibly effective. It was a little bit like welding, in the absence of having a stick welder, just like welding the nut on. So, but here you go. You can see the threads are all pretty clear, pretty clean. I've not cleaned them up at all. That's exactly how it came out. So I've got no concerns about putting a new stud straight back in to the head at all. But these lock nuts worked, or nuts that I put on as lock nuts worked very effectively. That's just the end that's sheared there. That has been filed clean just so you can see it. But yeah, I'm well pleased with this as a technique for removing a stud where it sits proud. It's pretty good. There you go, there's a better shot of the threads there. Pretty good, pretty clean. So I should just be able to put a replacement stud into the cylinder head and get that exhaust back on. I will just chase this out with a tap just to make sure it's okay, but as you can see from this, I'm not expecting to find any sort of muck, rust, corrosion or anything like that in there at all. So anyway, that was my fault because I over torqued it and learnt a lesson, but at least that made it a little easier to get out, having plenty of material. I'll bring you back next time when we've got the new studs to put in.